Her male assistant turned out to be a billionaire. She's just one promotion away from her dream job until the guy she hired to help her crush it drops a bombshell. He's not just any assistant. He's the billionaire. But what's he really after, and why is he pretending to be something else? Fasten your seatbelt. The real game is just beginning. Dear Narrative Hub customer, before you get lost in this epic adventure, I have one big favor to ask. Statistics have shown us that most of our customers have not yet subscribed to this channel. Subscribe now and help us hit 1,000 subscribers to unlock even more epic tales. Thank you. The sterile, recycled air of the 45th floor tasted like ambition. For Jennifer Smith, it was the only air she wanted to breathe. Perched on the edge of a senior vice president role at Sterling Drake, one of the most cutthroat investment firms in the city, her life was a meticulously managed spreadsheet of goals and deadlines. The final, critical variable in her equation was the upcoming Helios merger, a deal so massive it would either make her career or shatter it into a million pieces. Her assistant, Anthony Wilson, was the silent cog that kept her machine running. Hired 6 months ago, he was an enigma of quiet efficiency. He anticipated her need for coffee before she did, had documents prepared before she asked, and possessed an unnerving calm that was completely at odds with the high-strung chaos of their world. He was, for all intents and purposes, the perfect assistant, but there were glitches in his programming, little things that didn't add up. Last month, during a furious video conference with a potential partner from Shanghai, the translator fumbled. The client, a stern-faced tycoon named Mr. Wei, was about to terminate the call in disgust. Before Jennifer could salvage it, Anthony leaned in and spoke a stream of flawless, formal Mandarin into the speakerphone. The tycoon's expression softened, then broke into a respectful smile. The deal was saved. When she asked him about it later, Anthony just shrugged. "Picked it up in college," he'd said, his expression giving nothing away. Jennifer, too busy to probe, had simply filed it away as a lucky break. Then there was the server crash 2 weeks ago that had the entire IT department scrambling. Hours of panicked work yielded nothing. As the deadline for a critical submission loomed, Anthony had quietly taken a seat at a terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard in a blur of code. In 10 minutes, the system was back online. His explanation: "I dabble in coding on the weekends." It was another anomaly she dismissed in the heat of the moment. She thought it was loyalty, a young man trying desperately to impress his boss. She was too focused on the prize to see the pattern. She couldn't see that she wasn't his boss, she was his project. The pressure was mounting. The Helios merger was in its final, brutal stage. Their main competitor, a corporate rating firm led by the notoriously ruthless Robert Williams, was pulling out all the stops to kill the deal. Whispers of sabotage and information leaks slithered through the office halls. Jennifer was working 18-hour days, fueled by caffeine and pure will. She trusted no one except Anthony, who was a steadfast shadow at her side. The screw-up happened at 3:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. The final pitch deck for the Helios board, a document Jennifer had personally bled over for weeks, was due for a secure upload in 30 minutes. She handed the encrypted drive to Anthony. "Triple-check the financials on slide 22 and upload it. My career is on this drive, Anthony. Do not mess this up." He nodded, his face as placid as ever. "You can count on me." 20 minutes later, her phone rang. It was Kenneth Jackson, her direct superior and mentor, his voice tight with fury. "Jennifer, what in the world have you done? The Helios deck was just uploaded to a public server. Robert Williams's entire team has it. The deal is dead." The blood drained from Jennifer's face. It was impossible. She stormed out of her office, her vision tunneled on Anthony's desk. He was standing there, looking at his monitor, a strange expression on his face. Rage, cold and pure, washed over her. He was the only one who touched the drive. "You!" she hissed, her voice shaking. "My office, now." She had the termination letter printed before he even sat down. She didn't let him speak, just slammed the paper onto her desk. "At 3:15 p.m., I made the biggest mistake of my career," she thought, her internal monologue a scream of betrayal. "I trusted my assistant with everything, and he torched it all." "I'm sorry, Jennifer," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "It wasn't me." "Save it," she snapped, pointing to the door. "You're done here. Security will escort you out." He didn't move. He didn't look sad or angry. He looked almost disappointed. Then he did something she would never forget. He slowly reached into his simple, worn wallet and pulled out not a key card, but a single, heavy platinum card with the Sterling Drake Tower emblem embossed on it. He slid it across the desk. It wasn't the standard employee card. It was black, executive level, penthouse access. "I think you'll find that my access can't be revoked," he said, his voice dropping an octave, losing the deferential tone she was used to and gaining an edge of pure authority. "Security answers to me." He tapped his laptop, which he'd brought with him, and turned it to face her. It wasn't an apology email on the screen. It was a live bank statement from a private Swiss holding company. The balance had 9 zeros after the first 3 digits. Her mind struggled to process the numbers. It was more money than the entire Helios deal was worth. More money than the company itself was worth. "You don't work in this building," she whispered, the horrifying realization dawning on her. His eyes, cold and calculating, met hers. "I own it, and everything in it, including your job." The world tilted on its axis. The man she paid a modest salary, the man she'd once seen discreetly tapping a sole back onto his shoe, was a titan of industry. The silence in the office was deafening. He wasn't a saboteur. He wasn't an assistant. He was something else entirely. "Who are you?" Jennifer finally managed, her voice barely audible. "My name is Anthony Wilson. My family founded Wilson Global, the investment firm Robert Williams bankrupted 10 years ago." The grit in his voice was unmistakable. This wasn't business. It was a vendetta. "Williams didn't just beat us, he cheated. He used a mole inside our company to steal our strategies and poison our deals. He's done it to a dozen other companies since. Now he's doing it to Sterling Drake. He's doing it to you." The puzzle pieces crashed into place with sickening clarity. The Mandarin, the coding, the uncanny advice that had saved her deals. It wasn't a young man trying to impress her. It was a master strategist gathering intelligence. "The pitch deck?" she asked, her mind racing. "The drive I uploaded was a clean copy to a secure server. The one that went public was a decoy, sent from an internal IP address just minutes later. Someone inside this office is working for Williams. I've been here for 6 months trying to find out who. The leak today was a trap I set to smoke them out." He'd let her believe he was the traitor, let her try to fire him, all to see how the real mole would react. The cutthroat competitiveness wasn't just in the boardroom, it was right here in her own office. She felt a chill run down her spine. "Who is it?" "All I know is that they have high-level clearance, and they're close to you." Suddenly, every friendly face was suspect. Every colleague, every manager. The foundation of her world had cracked. She had been operating on a battlefield she didn't even know existed. Now, the man she had just fired held all the cards. The power dynamic had been irrevocably, terrifyingly reversed. She wasn't the boss anymore. She was a pawn in a much deadlier game. "Why me?" she asked. "Why my department?" "Because you're the best," he said simply, without a hint of flattery. "You were leading the Helios merger, the biggest deal on Williams's target list, and because I watched you for months before I applied. You're relentless, you're brilliant, and you don't back down. I needed to be close to the person Williams would be most desperate to destroy." He paused. "I need your help, Jennifer. We need to find the mole before the final board meeting in 48 hours or Williams wins. He won't just kill the deal. He'll cripple this company." She had a choice. She could retreat, let her career burn, and walk away from the chaos. Or she could trust the billionaire who had lied to her for 6 months and fight back. Looking into his intense gaze, she knew there was no real choice at all. The next 48 hours were a blur of paranoia and high-stakes maneuvering. Working from Anthony's penthouse suite, a minimalist palace of glass and steel that overlooked the entire city, they became an unlikely team. His unlimited resources combined with her intimate knowledge of the company's inner workings. He could pull financial records, communication logs, and security footage that no one else could touch. She could read between the lines, identifying subtle shifts in behavior and office politics that no algorithm could detect. The first suspect was a rival VP, a man named George, who had always been jealous of Jennifer's success. Anthony's tech team quickly cleared him. The second was a junior analyst, Tyler Perez, who seemed to be living beyond his means. A quick financial trace revealed he had a gambling problem, but he wasn't the mole. He was just another casualty of the city. The pressure was building. Jennifer felt eyes on her every move at the office. Every conversation felt loaded with hidden meaning. The friendly smiles of her colleagues now looked like masks. All the while, the clock ticked down to the final Helios presentation. It was Kenneth Jackson, her mentor, who finally gave himself away. He stopped by her office, ostensibly to offer his condolences about the leaked deck. "It's a shame," he said, his face a perfect mask of sympathy. "Robert Williams is a shark. I saw him destroy Wilson Global years ago. Poor kid, Anthony. His family lost everything." Jennifer froze. The details of Wilson Global's collapse weren't public knowledge. The involvement of a kid was a footnote buried in sealed court documents. How would Kenneth know that? 1,000 small interactions suddenly clicked into place. Kenneth's helpful suggestions that subtly shifted her strategy, his uncanny knowledge of Williams's moves, his constant presence near her most sensitive projects. She relayed the conversation to Anthony. Within an hour, he had it. Encrypted payments from an offshore account owned by Williams, routed through 3 shell corporations, and deposited into an account under Kenneth's wife's maiden name. It was irrefutable. The man who had built her up was the one setting her on fire. The betrayal was a physical blow, more painful than any business deal gone wrong. "He's going to make his final move at the presentation tomorrow," Anthony said, his face grim. "He'll try to sabotage you live in front of both boards, and Williams will be there to watch." The main boardroom was electric with tension. The Sterling Drake board sat on one side, the Helios board on the other. Jennifer stood at the podium, her heart hammering against her ribs. In the back, Robert Williams watched with a predatory smirk, flanked by his lawyers. Kenneth gave her a reassuring nod, the picture of a supportive mentor. Anthony was nowhere to be seen. That was the plan. Jennifer began her presentation, her voice steady and confident. She laid out the vision, the strategy, the undeniable financial sense of the merger. She was building to her crescendo, the final, game-changing projections. "And now," she said, clicking the remote, "for the 5-year growth forecast, which I believe you'll find." The screen went blank. A collective gasp went through the room. Jennifer clicked again. Nothing. "We seem to be having a technical difficulty," she said, trying to keep the panic from her voice. Kenneth stood up, his face etched with concern. "Jennifer, what's going on? Don't you have a backup?" It was the final, devastating move. He had wiped the file from the local server. She was dead in the water. Robert Williams leaned forward, his smile widening. "It seems Ms. Smith is unprepared. Perhaps we should postpone this." "That won't be necessary." The voice came from the boardroom entrance. Every head turned. Anthony Wilson walked in, dressed not in an assistant's simple suit, but in a bespoke tailored suit that radiated power. He held a tablet in his hand. "The presentation isn't corrupted," Anthony announced, his voice echoing in the stunned silence as he strode to the front of the room. "It was merely temporarily redirected." He wirelessly connected his tablet to the main screen. The missing slide appeared, sharp and clear. But it was the slide after that which made the room explode. It was a flowchart, showing the complex web of offshore accounts, tracing a direct line from Robert Williams through the shell companies to Kenneth Jackson. Kenneth's face went white. Williams shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. "This is slander. You have no proof." "On the contrary," Anthony said, his voice dropping to an icy calm. "I have everything." He swiped to the next screen, which now displayed a copy of a formal letter of intent. "As of 9:00 a.m. this morning, my firm, the newly revitalized Wilson Global, has initiated a hostile takeover of your company, Mr. Williams, citing illegal corporate espionage. The SEC has been notified. Your assets are frozen." He then turned to the stunned Sterling Drake board. "And as my first act as the new majority shareholder of what was once your biggest competitor, I'm casting my vote in favor of the Helios merger, under Jennifer Smith's sole leadership." The room erupted. In one clean, devastating move, he had not only saved the deal but had vanquished his family's oldest enemy. Kenneth was discreetly escorted from the room by security. Robert Williams stood, utterly broken, his empire crumbling around him. Later that evening, Jennifer stood in her new, larger office, the SVP title now official, looking out at the city lights. The door opened and Anthony walked in. The power dynamic between them was no longer boss and assistant, liar and deceived. It was something new, something undefined. They were equals, partners in a war she hadn't known she was fighting. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said, his voice softer now. "You lied to me for 6 months," she replied, not as an accusation, but as a statement of fact. "I did," he admitted. "I had to be sure." She turned from the window to face him, a small, wry smile on her lips. The battle was over, but the questions remained. Who was this man, really? And what did he want now that his mission was complete? She looked into his eyes, and for the first time, she saw not a billionaire or an assistant, but just a man, complicated and driven just like her. The adrenaline of the fight was gone, replaced by a new, more potent curiosity. The corporate game was over. But a far more interesting one, she suspected, was just beginning.